All right, so today we're gonna go over deadlifts because I wanna show you how to take an exercise, which is predominantly that entire posterior chain, and move the emphasis towards your entire back, right? Taking it out of the legs. Also, if you have any breakdowns in your form where you're losing it in your lower back, or you're starting to bow a little bit, I'll show you how to work on it in a way in different variations where you can actually make progress, not waste any days in the gym, and then eventually get that perfect deadlift. So if you're ready, let's get after it. Couple things to note here. You're gonna see me wear straps the entire time, and that's just because I never wanna take an open-handed grip, risk tearing that bicep. So I'm always overhand, I'm always in straps so I can focus on just the form itself, right? Keeping that back nice and tight, never letting it roll forward, because I don't wanna think about in the movement as I'm pulling up, how's my grip strength, am I losing it? Not even an afterthought in my head. Just strap in, be done with it. And another thing, you're gonna see a lot of great videos on other channels about how to get a stronger deadlift by, rolling that upper back forward and shortening that movement as much as possible, but this isn't that. I'm actually purposely trying to exaggerate the movement, put more stress on the back, because for me, my training, this channel, it's all about growth. Last thing is, I'm going barefoot. Now, if you're somebody who uses lifting shoes, you like them, great. Personally, I've just never used them. I've always liked the way my feet feel on the floor, the pressure, how I can feel it shifting underneath me, and even the grip of my toes. So if you can't afford them, you don't have them, I don't really think you need them. But if you like them, by all means. All right, first thing, pull the bar to your shins. Obviously load that back, get it nice and tight, but more so than that, take a little wider grip than shoulder width. And then when I get ready to load myself, I'm pushing those knees out as much as possible. And that's really gonna load those hips and get it ready to actually pull through the movement instead of just driving straight up and almost feel that vulnerable position where I see a lot of people, a lot of clients, they wanna just tuck right in. If you get them to force out before they even start, it's gonna keep them in a better plane of motion the entire time. So from the side, you're gonna see how the emphasis is really on driving back with that butt, keeping the back as flat as possible, because a lot of times what I see with people is that they're dropping down and the bar actually goes below their knees. That's where they bring their legs into it, right? So then they'll sit back and try to squat down and use those legs, which are really dominant movers, but problem is we're trying to load that back. We'll actually make this more of a good morning movement. I mean, you're still in a really strong position because those hips can pull pretty much anything. But the difference here is you don't want those legs to drive at all, right? If anything, it stays in your hips, loads that lower back, and then it runs all the way up into your traps because you have to take that entire load just holding the bar. So the way to know if you're on the right track is to watch those knees. So as you're coming down to touch or even rest the bar, if your knees are shifted over top of it, you're getting too much quad involved. If they're shifted back the entire time, good. The pressure's all on your hips and you're pulling with that back. All right, I'm sure you get the concept by now. So let's start moving some weight, talk about sets and reps and how it's structured in the workout. Typically what I'll do is I'll work up to 2 to 3 working sets, about 6 reps. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 7, just how I guess the weight. Now, I used to wear a belt back in the day all the time. Now I don't wear one at all. And I think you're fine if you don't go below 6 reps and your form's tight, even below that, as long as your form's good, because I used to wear one for years, but the problem is, I caught myself actually pushing against the belt instead of keeping my abs tight, right? So I ended up distending myself, pushing those abs out, and actually, cutting off circulation. You'd see, little, I'm sure you've had this before if you wear a belt, little cuts all over from the actual belt and the pinching of it. And then I'd have like an upset stomach the rest of the day just because I was pushing so hard against it. It wasn't keeping my core tight. So once I, ditched the ego, ditched the belt, I feel like now, even with that 6 reps, I can keep the core tight, I can focus on my breathing and pull that weight up, not a problem. This very well could be the first time I myself on camera. Now, I've talked to you about this before, but with deadlifts, it's a whole different animal. So that last set, about the 4th set, I'll do a widowmaker. So 20 reps, I'll drop the weight a little bit and just rep it out. As long as the form's good, I'll just keep going. If I can go more than 20, do 25, I will. I'll stop about 30 and then I know it's way too light. But rarely would you ever make it to 30. It's even with 45s on there, you're just gonna be gassed by that point. I'd rather run a mile than do this. If anybody's taking bets, I'm sure I'm gonna pass out for it, throw up after about 15. That was awful. Now, if you're somebody who loses the movement at the very bottom, now, this is a lot of people. It's a couple things, right? It's either you're really tight in the hips, hip flexors from sitting all day, glutes are incredibly tight, also could be weak, that's why they're tight, or that lower back is really weak. So what you can do, instead of wasting all that time trying to almost avoid the movement or work on something else first, you can do both. So what I have people do is either go from a rack pull, nice low rack pull, just right above that point where they lose it. If you don't have that, you can use blocks. If you don't have blocks, use a Reebok step. I don't care what you have. Or at the very worst, just take the bar itself, walk it off the rack, and only go down to that point right before you lose it, come back up. And the good part about that is you're going to progress week in, week out. You're going to miss the very bottom portion of that movement, but that'll come with time, because in the meantime of progressing with this, working on that mid back, upper back traps, you're going to be doing either reverse hypers or whatever your deficiency is. Probably it's going to be that lower back, right? So lower back glute tie-in, work on reverse hypers. What that's going to do is really teach you how to engage, so you know how to, in the moment, you can keep that flexion of the back and really squeeze and hold it nice and tight, and you don't lose that form and get that butt wink at the very bottom and put that lower back in a compromising position. As always, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get after it, get growing. I'll talk to you soon.